Right.
And may God help you. But like if I want to quote somebody called Dr. Reuben Abati today, that was also there sitting with Seyi Makinde, he says, and I quote, he said, "Don't deal. They must well call the result of the election today in favor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu." I wish you could say that to his face. It will have peppered him small, Dr. Abati.
All right, Dr. Abati, your take on this story. You were there yesterday.
Since you are so passionate about the interview, which I moderated in Ibadan yesterday, let's start with that. Now, the question that you have raised about, I guess it's about the G5.
Yes.
Now, Governor Seyi Makinde addressed that. He said, look, he became a member of the G5 because he didn't think it was right for a northerner to rule Nigeria for 8 years. That's General Buhari, President Buhari. And then thereafter, he will be succeeded by another northerner. But that the PDP went to their, convention, and it was, Waziri Adamawa that won. And then he then said, okay, as a party man, if this is the decision of the party, let us support the party. But they then came to a point where he, as a leader of the party from the southwest, said to Waziri Adamawa, along with others, that, okay, what is the calculation? What is the need for us? Politics is also always about the interest of your people. But it turned out that the presidential candidate from the northeast, the chairman of the party from the north central, that's Senator Yoshi Ayu, and also it was obvious that Governor Tambuwa, who was at that time, Senator Tambuwa now, who was at that time the chairman of the Governors Forum of the PDP, will also be given a major position. And they told Atiku Abubakar in London that, look, not east, not central, not west. What is in need for other zones? What do we sell to our own people? And that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar told them that he would think about it in another week. He will get back to them. And then 1 week later, he said, well, the arrangement should stand. And he said, okay, recommended Arakpaja, who is Deputy Vice Chairman of the party, to at least be given something. So that Yoruba people will also think that in this party called PDP, they have a stake going into the 2023 elections. But he refused. And at that point, he said, well, I'm here representing my people. And if they are not going to give the southern part of Nigeria anything, either the southwest or the southeast, it's better to insist that the south should be the party that should have, a shot at the presidency. And it was on that principled basis that he decided to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, even if along the line President Bola Ahmed Tinubu didn't also, demonstrate good faith. So that was his response in that particular regard. Not that, he willfully just decided that, let us support Atiku Abubakar, or let us form G5. And it was thereafter he talked about Wike. He said Wike is a man who is running a message that nobody has made him the messenger for. They met with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on one occasion when he called a meeting. And that Wike was the one who just jumped in and said, Mr. President, I will guarantee 2027 for you. And that was the basis of their departure. And he told him that we never decided on this. Why are you sending a message that nobody has sent you? But Wike decided to go on a voyage of his own. He, however, said in that interview, as moderator, you can imagine that I will listen to every line from everybody. Now, he then said, you are on your own in this matter, because this is not a decision of the PDP. But you have the right to take your own decision. But I will not be party to this. And that he too has a right. That is the contest. Now, the other thing that he said is that this thing about one-party state progression that we are having, he thinks that it is dangerous for democracy. He talked about serious consequences. And it defined the serious consequences in terms of the fact that if you have a democracy where everybody is going in the same direction, then of course democracy is what will suffer. We asked him a question about, okay, but you are alone, you are saying you will stay in PDP, but most of your colleagues, 28 of them, have gone to APC. We don't even know who else will follow. He said, well, those governors that are following the APC and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu are about the people. It is not proven that if a governor and senators in some states say we are following a one-man cult, it doesn't mean that the people will follow. And he cited the example of the 2019 election in Oyo State when he became governor. And he said that, look, Oyo State was not even a PDP state. Oyo State had nobody in the Senate, nobody in critical positions. But the people on their own decided that they will vote PDP against the run of play. And that all of us should not jump to conclusions yet, because the dynamics may change. And it stressed the point that the opposition is important for democratic value and progress and consolidation. So that's as far as that goes, in terms of what Arise News producer tried to isolate for discussion. There are other issues. Anyway, however, the other issue you brought up is the PDP crisis. Now, two things to note here. The INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, says is not recognizing any faction until court judgments have been delivered, determined the crisis in the courts, whether in the Oyo State High Court or at the Federal High Court. Well, I would say that INEC is trying to be cautious in this regard. It does not want to jump the gun. It does not want to be seen to be anticipating what the courts will decide. However, two caveats, four in fact. One, when the PDP held its convention in Ibadan, I think November 15?
15 to 16.
Yeah, okay, November 15 to 16. INEC observers were there, giving some validation to that process. Now, the same INEC has since called the parties involved, the Turaki faction, as they call it, the Wike faction, as they call it, to a meeting. And it was at the end of that meeting that INEC said we'll wait for what the courts will say. However, the problem with that meeting that INEC called was, as Governor Makinde pointed out yesterday, because he addressed the issue, that Samuel Anyanwu was invited to that meeting. And he raised the poster that in what capacity did that happen? Two, why did they not invite Ambassador Damagum to that party? In other words, he was suggesting that INEC is trying to play games with the matter. But the third point that I think we should also note is that the Supreme Court, two decisions from the Supreme Court. One, that the courts cannot determine the internal processes of political parties, that the parties themselves are the ones that have the power, in line with their constitution, to resolve whatever internal matters that they have. And two, I think there was also another judgment by the Supreme Court saying that INEC cannot on its own decide on what will happen within a political party. However, from a pragmatic point of view, I think that PDP is in trouble. Those who say we will rebuild PDP, we will do this, the same Supreme Court, the same courts of Nigeria that we have seen, they can keep this matter in the courts till end of next year, when it will be too late for the PDP to feed candidates, when it will be too late for a party in disarray to even present itself, organize itself as a credible opposition.
News. Your fast, reliable, and simplified source for Nigerian news updates.